Hello. All right. We're live. There's a delay. Haha. So I'm sitting next to my roommate, like literally next to my roommate.
I just mute your voice.
And yeah, well, obviously, he's actually the reason I started this because he wanted to learn HTML, and I'm like, I might as well teach multiple people at the same time. And I got to turn my font size up. I'm going to try font size 20. Is that legible?
Chuck, say hi. Turn to me.
Hi.
Should I just delete my hat and start over?
Probably, because we're going to be starting from scratch. So I've went ahead and created an Office Hours 1 folder, and I did the whole default, HTML setup. And let me show you what we're going to be doing. So we're going to be recreating the .org. We're going to be recreating the website of the robotics team that my roommate was on in high school because it's a really simple website and it's an easy place to get started. And while we're here, we're going to go over some basic layout techniques and some important things you're going to need to know. So,
WordPress is stupid. I don't want to do it.
I mean, WordPress is like impressive for what it is. I don't know. Anyway, I can't hear my own voice, so I can't hear if you're being picked up, but I'm just assuming you are. I'm not sure. No, I don't, because I don't want an echo. And your headphones are open back. Okay. So, but can you hear yourself?
Testing my voice. If I shout, yes.
Okay.
I don't shout.
That's good enough for me. So, basically what we want to do is recreate, let me bust out the good old whiteboarding tool.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
The basic gist of what we're doing is we're creating a box with some boxes in it, right? So we've got a gray back. What? Fill.
You guys are so much.
I actually have no idea how Paint works. I don't know why I decided now is the time to learn Paint. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Pencil tool is reliable, right? We've got a box. We got some shit up here. And my stream is not marked for mature audiences, so I should probably not curse. We got some stuff over here, and then we've got another box with a picture, and then we've got all the content down here is probably in the same box. It's probably not because it's WordPress, and WordPress themes are always overbuilt, but for our purposes, it can be. So, what?
There's also that footer.
There is a footer. It's a tiny little other box right down here. That's okay. The important thing to note from this is we need one box and then 4 boxes within it. So let's start there, shall we? Box 1 is the outer box. We got 2, 3, and 4. And I guess the footer, but fuck the footer, right? So let's go ahead and say div. And because we're using Emmet and we're amazing, div times 4. And expand that with tab. So now we've got 4 divs. That's a start, right? But we want to be semantic about this. Let's call this ID equals wrapper, because it's sort of wrapping the rest of our page. We'll rename this div to nav. Why nav? Well, nav is just like a div, but it's sort of, well, technically nav only applies to the, okay, I take that back. We're going to keep this a div for now. Let's start on the first div first, or the top. ID equals mast. These are just, wrapper and mast are just words that appear all the time in web development. Just like, trust me on it. I don't know. So first things first, we're going to try to recreate this top bit. That's what our mast one is. We don't have a style tag yet. Let's get that down. Okay. So before we do anything, whoops. You'll notice that on this page, the content is centered, is like left aligned in its respective area, but the whole thing is centered overall with a gray background. That let's do that first. Yeah, I'm going to style inline just because it kind of makes teaching easier. I wouldn't do this in the real world. I'd be using Sass. All right, so hashtag wrapper, max width. Let's give it 800 pixels, see how that looks. And margin auto, we'll center it within. We'll give our body a background color. Background DDD. Say that again?
Can you just write that in a CSS file?
You can write that in the CSS file. It'll work just as well. Let's go a little darker. I could inspect element and figure out what the right color is, but I don't actually care, so it doesn't matter. Whoops. I just undid instead of saved. I'm an idiot. That's okay. Save, not undo. All right. It's time to start previewing our document so we can see what we're doing. So I'm going to cd to desktop is where I'm storing this. Light server. Ha! We have a gray nothing. Beautiful. It's exactly what I wanted. So let's get started. Wrapper, make sure this is a background white. And let's go ahead and place an H1 inside of our mast. Arcadia Robotics. We'll handle the logo later. Ah, beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. Except, not really. Look, we're already there. We've already won. Can't you see the resemblance? It's over. We're done. Goodbye. No. Let's lighten this up. It's a little lighter, actually. You know what? I might have been right with my first instinct. Even a little lighter. There we go. There's clearly some padding within this, so we're going to do that. Mast padding 30 pixels. See how that looks? That's a little overkill. Let's give it like 10. That looks a little nicer. Our H1 is, well, our whole body is the wrong font, isn't it? Font family Arial. Helvetica Sans Serif. Looks a little better. Our color is not quite black. Color, whoops. Color hashtag 333 is, you know, a little, it's off black, is what I'll call it. And our mast H1 is font weight normal. Okay. This needs to be wider, actually. Specifically, we're looking at 1,223.17 pixels. We'll round that up to even 1,200. Okay. Now I'm wondering if that's just because, okay, it shrinks. It's 1268. Max width 1268 with a body margin. All right, we can do that. 68. Okay. With a body margin. Hey, there we are. We already have it. Look at that. Yay. We're like halfway there already. So the next thing we're going to need into our mast is a nav. UL li times like 4 for now, and just say like a Google, and actually yank, paste, 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 paste. All right, cool. But we don't want that, do we? Nav li display inline block. Okay. Margin 3 pixels, just all around. All right, and let's give it a background to make sure I'm not forgetting about some stuff. orange. I'll show you guys why I'm doing this in a minute. Nav ul background. The reason I do this is to spot, yep, this inner margin. It's actually a padding. Padding 1 pixel. There's an inner padding that's usually there to make space for the bullet, but we don't have bullets. List style type none. So if I delete this, you can see that now there's no bullet. If I delete this, there's no bullet, which is what we wanted. So we just wanted to get rid of that bullet. There we go. We've got some links. That's fun. Let's go ahead and take the nav itself and start styling it. I like to keep these in a different order. Also, format document. There we go. That's what I wanted. So let's just float right on this guy. Alright. It's not quite what we wanted, but by a simple reordering of things, by putting the H1 below the nav, suddenly it is. It's exactly what we wanted. Look, we're like halfway there already. We should change how it works a little bit. So, nav A, text decoration none. Okay. Color inherit. Alright. Nav A hover. Let's say like if I could spell red, green, blue. It's the world's grossest color, blue. Let's pick a better one. Alright. It's just that feels pretty good. Oh, I'm an idiot. Whoops. Whoa. Ah! I accidentally yanked too much of the page. Oh man. Carter, are you seeing this? Has it caught up on stream yet? I accidentally copied too much of the page and I made a thing. I did a thing incorrectly. Alright, we good? Okay. Let's see. Yank 2 down. Paste. There we go. That's what I wanted. Paste. Paste. 2 down. Paste. There we go. Now we have our links. Alright, looking good so far. And they do link. Huzzah. Alright, what else? What else? What else? We have a subhead. Let's go ahead and do that right now. Oh, also, let's just say margin left 2em 2mirl for mirl. There we go. Let's make it 1em. So what's the difference between an em and a pixel? Well, an em is defined as whatever the font size of that context is. So the reason I would use em is because I want something to scale as the font size scales for things like zooming and things like that. And usually browsers are pretty good at handling that, but if they have like accessibility settings that don't handle them quite as well, that is where you use em. So we've got the top kinda. We don't have a logo, but we'll grab the logo later. Let's grab an H2. That's probably, I'm gonna guess that's an H2. Seems like it should be an H2. It is an H2. Okay. Oh, I was like, who's using the microwave? H2. First team 69. nav h1, mast h1. Let's just see. Let's see if this just works. It's not bad. We'll just style the h2 specifically. Say margin top 0. So in that case, it must be a margin bottom 0. There's margin there. There we go. And we'll say, well, I should break this out. Mast h1. So you'll notice that I have a little bit of duplicate. Oh. I have a little bit of duplication within my selectors up here. And the reason is because this code I want to be the same across both of these. So I pull it out to a common area. On purpose, I might add. Well, but I really want this. And I want this. Well, so this is where 1EM kind of fucks up because the subhead and the head have different default font sizes, so 1EM is defined differently. So I'm going to use pixels now, 20 pixels. Looks fine. And in that case, I can pull that out into the, there we go, that looks nice. Font size, 0.8 EM, way too tiny, 1 EM. So that's what's always confused me about EM, is if you define font size with EM, it's relative to the default as far as I can tell. But if you define like margin or padding, it's relative to the actual font size of that element, if that makes sense. And I can't quite figure out why, but I don't really care that much. It's fine. First time, lol, team. Doesn't actually matter, but you're looking at me.
You go way too fast.
I go too fast? Really?
I could have told you that. I'm just sitting here listening to it.
You go very fast.
Oh. Okay. Alright, well here's your chance to catch up, kids. My structure, the reason I go fast is because I'm just trying to convey ideas without like I don't, it doesn't matter if you exactly copy like all.
It's not that you're trying to copy, it's just like trying to get.
Well, so what is it you're trying to look at right now?
Well, let me just go very fast. So go to your style.
Go to my style. Okay.
I think I may have that messed up. I have mast. Okay, so in theory that should all work in some main CSS. And I wrote those right.
I'm remembering this is live, so you can pause it, but if you do, you'll miss stuff. So feel free to remind me to pause. Oh, you missed a couple key things. So I lightened my background color.
Well,
That doesn't matter though. The thing that happened is if your Google is down here, that means you need to put it above your H1 and H2. Watch, if I move the H1 and H2, then your links are down here.
so if I do.
But if I put them down here, then we're good. And the reason for that is interesting. You see, a floated element lives in line with the thing it was declared above and just continues as far as it needs to. So if you put it at the end of something, it's going to be below everything. But if you put it at the top of stuff, it'll just be fine, you know? In general, you want to float stuff near the top. It'll just sort of act more reliably. All right, so I'm looking at Carter's screen right now, and he's basically got it. He's just got to work on... Yes.
There's reasons to stuff like its own files.
Yeah, I know, but I wanted to have it in line for streaming and such.
I know. The body, that one makes sense. So H1. Sup? Yeah. There's no one watching this right now.
If you really want to.
Carter's your lead.
So this does that to both, but then these are different.
Yes, I figured there's no point in copying that between both because it'd be the exact same. So I extracted it out. And you'll notice when I use a style that is shared between two things, I use a comma. So I should talk a little bit about selector inheritance. Yes.
Where are you streaming
Twitch.tv/chuckletmilk.
Don't move that for a minute.
I'll leave it on and just talk about selector inheritance. TWITCH.tv/chuckletmilk.
/
Have you ever seen a URL with a backslash in it?
If forward is this one, right?
It's the only one that ever appears on the internet.
Chuck?
Chuck, like my name.
Yes.
L-E-T.
Like your milk.
Yeah. That's not how you spell the like lat in chocolate at all, but yes. It's a pun on chocolate milk. I'm a big milk drinker, if anyone at home is interested. Anyway, back to work. So let's talk about selectors for a little bit. Now, selectors are these little bits in the CSS that define what you're doing. And it's called, the language CSS is called CSS. It's called cascading style sheets. And a cascading style sheet just means that it's a weird name just to say that like styles cascade. So your document, your HTML, just so that I can scroll over here. The HTML is a hierarchy, right? You start with the root. You can think of it like a tree. You can start with the root of it being the body. And then every node, these are called DOM nodes. When you talk about like the scripting world, the HTML and like the document itself exists in a structure known as the DOM, the document object model, and it's a tree. So you can draw it roughly like, how do I clear? Can I just like Control A and delete? Yeah.
Hold on, can I ask you to do something?
1 second. We have our what?
Explain EM again?
EM is a relative unit. It's relative to the font size in that context. Yeah. So the DOM tree is like a body. Honestly, I should just use like PowerPointer. You've got like a body at your root, and then you've got like, what do we have? We have wrapper. And then we have 3 divs. Or wait, 1, 2, 3, 4 divs if I can count. We have hashtag mast. And we haven't touched all these other ones. And within mast, we've got nav, h1, and h2. I'm going to have to redraw this tree at some point. But that's okay. h1 and h2. So when people talk about the DOM tree, this is what they're talking about. This exact beautiful drawn tree. No. The point I'm trying to make here is if you apply a style to the body, it will apply to every one of its children, every one of its child nodes. So if I say body font size equals 300, it'll apply to everything. It'll cascade down the tree. But if I apply something to H2, not only will it only apply to H2, it'll override any styles that were given to the body because it's more specific. So the most specific CSS selector will always win in the order of precedence. Now, if I define a style on like H1 or H2 using EM, which is, I have no idea what it stands for, but it's the relative unit, or REM, which is relative to the root as opposed to the context. And I'll explain that distinction in a quick second. Let me just finish my sentence. If I apply a style using EM or REM, it's a way of incorporating the style of the parent into the more specific rule because it's relative to the rules that it inherited, if that makes sense. So EM is given as relative to the context. So let's say I said body font size 300 pixels. That's a 2. That's fine. So that everything had 200 pixels except I said mast font size 100 pixels. And then I said H2 font size 2EM. So EM is relative to the current context. So it's going to be 2 times 100 pixels. It'll be 200 pixels. But if I said, oh gosh, I can't edit text, really? Oh, okay. I hate Notepad. Or I hate Paint. That's okay. But if I say font size to REM, that's going to be relative to the body always, to the like root level. So that will end up being 400 pixels. And I'm not going to do that right now, but hey, yay, primer on the DOM tree. I'll be referencing the DOM tree a lot in our scripting lesson whenever that happens. So, moving on. What were we doing again? Oh, right. This. So we're getting there. Next thing we need is a top ID equals, I'll call it ID equals cover photo. So our cover photo, let's, one thing that I'm thinking about right about now is how annoying this all is, because like this is annoying. Like I hate writing raw CSS. I use a CSS preprocessor called SCSS, and allows me to nest things like you would normally nest like DOM items and stuff. I'll get into tooling on that later though. I don't feel like installing it right now. I don't have it installed in Windows because I don't work in Windows. So, where to next? Cover photo. Let's say height is 300 VH. Or 30, or let's say 80 VH. So what the heck is a VH? Well, a VH is a viewport height unit, and VW is viewport width. And 1 VH is 1/100th of the height of the window. So that's a really useful tool if you just want something to take up a whack ton of space, because that's how you do it. Now you may be wondering, what's the difference between VH and %? Because on the surface they seem similar, except a VH is always in 1/100th of the height of the viewport, whereas a % is a percentage of whatever container it's in, the item is in. So if I'm styling this, can I collapse nav? Yes, I can. All right. If I say cover photo is 80% height, that means it's 80% the height of wrapper. But because wrapper doesn't have a defined size, it's just not going to exist. But if I said wrapper was 300 pixels, then cover photo would be 0.8 times 300, whatever the heck that number is. But with VH, I can just say, hey, take up a lot of space, and it will. Let's just make sure background. Baby, there's not like, at some point in my life, I want to learn all the HTML color names just because they're really strange. Like they're really weird and there's a lot of history behind them. Like dark gray is lighter than gray. Watch. Gray or dark gray. So anyway. Why am I going over this part? Oh, right, because we need a background image. Now, I happen to have a background image handy. Background URL. But I'm not serving it right now. Let's just pull this image. Let's just pull. Oh, wow, it's a lot shorter than I thought it was. Let's grab that image, actually. Lol. Alright, so it's too tall. And we'll say background repeat. Oh gosh. That's what it is. Oh, I didn't put a semicolon at the end. I knew I was right. There we go. Background size cover, background, position, center, center. There we go. All right. And that should be the end of that, to be honest. That's about all we need, really. And as you make it less tall, or less whatever, it'll just, you know, center how it needs to. How's it going, Carter? How we doing?
Center, center? How does that work?
X and Y alignment. I don't know which one's X and which one's Y. I've never done anything but center, center. But, you know, presumably you could set it to, like, specific things if you wanted to. In fact, that's how tile maps work. But I'll go over tile maps in the next video. All right, what next? We caught up?
It does cut off some image.
What cut off? The stream?
Part of the image.
Yeah, of course it cuts off part of the image because you're changing. It's not meant to display the whole image. It's meant to fill itself with an image. See? It's like responsive that way. You want it to do that. That's why we're not using an IMG tag. If we wanted to, we could use an IMG tag. And what that would do is it would maintain the aspect ratio and show the entire image. But we don't want that. We just want like a header, some content in the header. All right. Next, we'll call this ID equals content. Seems like a decent ID for that. All right. Now, hashtag content. I can't type today. Let's just like put something in there just to hold our spot while we get some text. Get an H3 up there. Welcome. And get a paragraph. Well, that's awful. Let me scroll this over. I don't normally work at font size 20 for the record. This is all for you. Padding. Let's try 20 pixels. That's good enough. What else are we saying? Is that an H1? I don't really care. H1 and an H3. We'll go hashtag content. That's not very semantic IMO. I like to do it, you know, in a tree. The further down the tree, the lower the H's you go. Font weight, normal. Font size, 40 pixels. All right. Padding, 0px, 20px. Top, right, bottom, 20 pixels. Yeah, okay, that looks all right. Top, left and right look a little gross. I'm gonna increase those a little bit. That looks okay. I like ours a little bit better. I like a lot of breathing room. Oh, also content line height 1.5. Oh, that looks a lot better. All right, I can reduce this now. 20 pixels. I'm still happier. I'm still happier at it higher. I don't know. It just looks nicer that way. Okay. Oh, I see. Welcome. H4. Thanks. Thanks. I don't know why I thought there was an apostrophe there. Stopping. Bye. And of course the no. Of course the H3 content H4.
Who likes simple videos?
What?
Simple videos.
I can't hear the word you're saying. Margin 0. Nah, let's go 15 pixels. Alright, more specifically, 0, top, right, 0, bottom, 1 em, left, 0 pixels. Alright, fine. Fine. 10 pixels. Let's give it 10 pixels. Bottom. Let's give that 20 pixels. Screw it, let's give it 80 pixels. Alright. Ugh, fine. We can give this like 15 or 20. Alright, and we're pretty much there. I'm bored. The footer's easy. Alright, so hashtag footer, background, font size 10 pixels, color, hashtag 555. Because for whatever freaking reason, people really love their footers to be lower contrast than the rest of the page. Oh, right, and then fine, 12 pixels. Padding, 10 pixels. 8 pixels. 5 pixels. 8 pixels. So, oh, this is an interesting point actually. You may be thinking to yourself, wow, that is not the difference between 0 pixels and 1 pixels. And the answer is, paragraph by default has margin around it, but if you put nothing but a single paragraph inside of a div or nothing but a single element inside of a div, the margins will collapse. And instead of creating space within the div, they'll actually create space outside of the div. That's known as margin collapsing. And if you have 0 pixel padding in any dimension, you will get no padding at all. It'll just collapse down. So if you want any padding at all, including the built-in margin on like that paragraph right there, you have to give it 1 pixel of padding or greater, or a border collapse none or something like that. But I always just do the hacky way because you know me. And DDT, A, B, C, D, C, C, C. That looks all right. All right, I'm bored. Hopefully you've learned absolutely nothing from this. I know I have.
I've learned a lot.
Take it easy. You could have learned this by just right-clicking and clicking inspect. Although, granted, let's freaking look at how many divs there are. This is insane. It's like 3 layers of divs just for this. Oh, I guess I should go over the copyright. Ampersand copy, or and copy colon. Yeah. There's actually a lot of fun and colons. There's also like, I guess you can't really see that there. There's some fun stuff in the ampersand variety. And NBSP is literally just a space. And bull is that weird dot that you see people putting between things. And copy is the copyright symbol. And TM is not anything. Yeah, Google it. Any questions? You have some Java questions. Well, that's not the purpose of the stream, so I'm just gonna log off.
Oh, it's ampersand copy.
Ampersand copy semicolon. COPY semicolon.
What is the Jesus hierarchy?
And goodbye.